Welcome to the Women Lighthouse podcast, your friendly guide through all the ups and downs of life. We're here to remind you that every woman has the strength to take charge of her journey and make her dreams come true. Each week, we'll share heartwarming stories and helpful tips from amazing women who have faced their own challenges and come out stronger. Tune in, get inspired, and let's start this exciting journey towards achieving your dreams together. The Women Lighthouse, your guide to a brighter tomorrow. Hello, ladies. You're welcome to the Women Lighthouse podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Dr. Opeyemi and I am your host. So today, basically, we're continuing the gist about this homeschooling matter. We've been talking about homeschooling series, what homeschooling is about, and I've been with my guest, Opeyemi Badmus, who has also been sharing insights about homeschooling. And today, our topic is about how can you transition your child from traditional schooling to homeschooling. So just in case you've been considering homeschooling your kids and you're confused, okay, what do I do? What should I expect as I'm going to transition? How do I go about it? What are some of the challenges I may encounter and how do I handle it? This episode will answer all that question. So, Opeyemi, you are welcome to another episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's always been a pleasure.
Yes. So let's enlighten our viewers by sharing our experience. How was your experience transitioning your child into homeschooling?
Okay. Initially I did not have any pressure because it happened during COVID period. He had spent 2 times in school, and when COVID hit, we were forced to all sit at home. Sitting at home, I was able to take time. I was one of those parents that felt my child is in a regular school. I did not really follow up on what he was being taught. I felt I am paying the school, so it is the duty of the school to take care of anything academics. So I didn't really follow up. But being forced to stay at home with the child, I went through all his books and I was a bit angry because I felt they did not cover much. Before he started school, he could write figure 1, and after an entire 2 terms, he could only write figure 1 and letter A. So I was like, in the whole 2 terms, even at home, he would cover more. The first month, basically, we used for bonding, and the subsequent, he couldn't even identify alphabets, though he could sing the alphabet song. So the second month, I began to teach him identification of alphabets. I didn't focus on writing, I only focused on identification. And by the end of the second month, he was able to identify almost all the letters. That was when my interest in homeschooling rose. And since then, I never regretted them transitioning. So at that initial stage, because everybody was at home, there was no pressure from anywhere. But when it was time to resume, I think September, even those of us who were working for the government were told to resume work, and the school, there was a pressure from the school sending messages, making calls, won't you re-enroll your child and stuff. Then there was the pressure from my spouse and my in-laws. My own parents didn't interfere because my younger sister was homeschooling her own children at the time, and they were doing relatively well. compared to their mates who were attending traditional school. So that's why the pressure was one-sided, because they didn't know homeschooling to be a thing before I commenced it. I said there was pressure from my husband's family side, so that pressure itself is a challenge, but over time I was able to overcome it. It wasn't something I was able to overcome in a few months, actually, because they still had the mindset. My mother-in-law felt I was overstressing myself by going to work and having to teach the kids. You get. So later, even my husband was pressuring me. So what I did to not convince him to accept homeschooling, but to convince him to stop disturbing me, was I told him that if we are to enroll these children, because by then the second child was also old enough to start school. So I was like, if we are to enroll these two children in school, everything they need for school, their clothes, their socks, their bag, lunchbox, everything, I'll get it ready. But you just bathe for them and put on their clothes for them and take them to school. So when I gave him that condition, that was when he stopped disturbing me about it.
Okay. So for me, I would say that my journey transitioning my son, I've already shared that in previous episodes, but one of the major challenges I faced, in fact, was actually from my son. The fact that he kept saying he wanted to go back to school. So anytime he would call the name of the school, oh, mommy, I want to go back. Initially, he was enjoying the whole thing of not having to go to school. But by the time he had adjusted to the school to some extent, because of maybe the playground and the routine he was used to, he kept saying, I know I called you on several occasions when I started taking him to the co-op to tell you that he was always saying that he wants to go back to the other school. And I always felt quite, I don't know, uncertain. Was it that I made the wrong decision, having to like transition him out from that school which he was used to this co-op and to the whole experience. So even at some point too, when he now got used to not going to the regular school, and it was time to go to the co-op, he would tell you he did, because he sees the co-op too as school. Okay. It's just that he's not wearing school uniform, he's not staying long hours, he's more flexible. But initially too, he would cry and say that he didn't want to go there. He would always cry, mommy, I want to stay at home. Or, mommy, I want to follow you to work. I don't want to go to school. So one of the challenges I would say that you should expect is children are used to routines. Once they are used to a particular routine, adjusting to a new routine may take time. I know that those periods I felt like, did I make a wrong decision? It was quite frustrating then, but I was able to learn through your help, actually, to talk to him, to explain to him, and to tell him everything will be all right. And with time, he actually really adjusted, and he always looked forward to going there. So that's one of the challenges I faced, and you should look out for when transitioning to homeschooling. Then also, I would want you to speak on what experiences did you have when it came to like curriculum. So this issue of curriculum, in schools, when you are in regular school, they have different curriculums and all that. How were you able to select a curriculum for your child or your kids while you began homeschooling and you transitioned from regular school?
Okay. Initially, when we started the homeschooling, I didn't even think of a curriculum, to be sincere. I just wanted my child to know some basic things. One of the things that inspired me, like I said, was my younger sister who homeschools her children. From time university days, she used to say all she wants to do is to be an home builder. That is her vision for her life. And immediately she had her first pregnancy, she just focused all efforts on this is what I want. And sometimes I call her and ask her, how do you do this? How do you do that? So initially when I started, she just gave me some links to some YouTube channels. JDA is one of them. She was like, we are Muslims, so this lady is a Christian. I hope. I said, what's my own business with religion? What matters is the knowledge you want to pick from it. And then there are some people that might not be your own religion, but they share the same values with you. Like Onyeme, she's a Christian, I'm a Muslim, but our values align in a lot of things. So I can relate with her on so many aspects. So I was watching JDA, I was watching I think there's one Charlotte Mason YouTube channel and some other channels, learning from them how to teach the children the basic things. And one of the things I captured from them and other researches I did is that it is not compulsory to be strict on following a curriculum. So I was relaxed. However, because of the pressure surrounding me as to your children are not going to school. There's this statement I've even heard before. You just want to kill your children's brain, and I'm like, how will a mother want to kill the child's brain? I know these children are doing better than the first. Let me say the first because he had gone to school before. So I know he's doing much better than he was when he was in school. But how do I prove it to people? That was what brought about the idea of, okay, I need to work with the curriculum. So, and then, okay, so I started thinking of training as a teacher myself. Somehow I was able to link with a guy who does educational consultancy, and he sold a curriculum to me. I think he created a curriculum for a private school. I looked at it and I was like, the level of this curriculum is too simple for my liking. So I researched on how I could. Okay, I wanted to buy Lagos State curriculum, but I was told that the ministry that they sell it to, they sell it out. Okay, I wanted to get it for free. So I was told that the ministry that they sell it out to schools that are registered under the ministry at a price. I wasn't thinking of expending my money on that. So I researched and found a way to get the Lagos State scheme of work. And that is what I've been using to monitor my children's progress. I have this comfort, this confidence. There's this confidence that comes with, okay, if my child can complete kindergarten level in this curriculum, then he can compete with his mates or with his classmates in other schools, because I have the confidence that Lagos State scheme of work was built by professionals and based on world standards. So that was how I resolved my curriculum issue. However, from videos I watch and some researches I do, I realized that when some people say curriculum for a particular subject, they may just be referring to a specific textbook. I now also learned that some textbooks follow the scheme of work. The Lagos State scheme of work and the national scheme of work prepared by the NERDC is very similar, just little difference. So you see some textbooks like maybe Unilever textbooks, they'll tell you NERDC compliant. You see Longman, you see all those textbooks, they'll tell you which scheme they follow.
Oh, okay. So while you were speaking and you mentioned what your sister said about raising her kids, I can actually relate. When it comes to the issue of transitioning from traditional schooling to homeschooling, the priority shouldn't necessarily be about replicating what happens in the traditional school environment in your home. Flexibility is important, and knowing what you really want to focus on. Like in my own case, it was a bit easier initially when it came to curriculum. I didn't have to start going to search, oh, what curriculum should I use? Because the way we transitioned into homeschooling, it was by chance how my son was ill, and how I was experiencing burnout. I began to consider it. So we had already bought the books he was using for the session, and that was like second time. It was second time that I pulled him out. And it was the books that we had bought for him to use for that session that we went on to, I continued using to teach. So then, I don't know, I think there was when I went for one of those community meetings, because I joined the Abuja homeschool community. So there was this time we gathered to create our academic calendar. Like we go on field trips every month. So we wanted to discuss the places we will be going to for the session. So we were sharing our homeschooling experience, and someone now said she uses the Nigerian curriculum actually, because some of these foreign curriculums are quite pricey. They are quite expensive. And like in your own case, it was easy for you to even go on YouTube. And that's one thing people do not know, that free resources can still give you what you want. So for me, what I just did was, I think, reached out to the school he was in before and asked them for their list of books for the next class. And based on that, it served as a guide. I didn't even get all the list of books. I just knew I needed to focus on maths, on English, yes, on creative arts, and what else? So basically, I just got him maths, English, I got him coloring, I got him drawing. That's all these dots and all those things. And I got puzzles. I think I got them from you. I got the maze from you. And I got some other resources. So basically, knowing what your child needs at that season should be what should guide the choice of curriculum, not necessarily what is being done in the traditional school. Then also, I know recently I shared with you about U-Lesson. U-Lesson is also a good resource if you're thinking in the Nigerian curriculum angle. It's interactive, it's videos, they can watch, they can learn, and practically practice the exercises there. And also there's Khan Academic Kids, both the one for early years and the one for elementary. So these are just a few curriculums. So when thinking curriculum in transitioning, don't even think about going to spend money to buy a lot. Start small, experiment. Also, the learning style of your child would also determine the kind of curriculums you use. So this is also another thing to consider when you're transitioning from traditional schooling to homeschooling. Also, I want you to please speak on time management. Like in a traditional school setting, everything is structured. They have a timetable. There's a time to do this. There's a time to do that. There's break time and all that. In your own homeschooling setting, how did you manage transitioning and managing your time when it came to actually teaching your kids at home?
Okay. I'll first start by touching on another thing we have discussed before now. When we talked about routine and reading, I follow more of the reading kind of method than routine because later I also had to resume work, and initially when I resumed work, I ended the homeschooling for weekends. So they just play all around the week, or days that I didn't go to work, I'll be with them. But yes, it is not a regular school, so I can't spend 8 hours with you on academics. I also believe that if I am able to spend 2 hours daily with a child, the child should be able to cope with his mates that went to regular school. So Timing for me, I didn't have a strict schedule initially. That's okay. Some people would have had this timing that 8 o'clock we start, we do our prayers, by 9 we do English, by 10 we do maths. No, I wasn't strict on it. Um, all I knew is this is what I want to cover for a week, and anyhow, I'm going to cover that in a week. I may not touch English for 2 days. Perhaps the child is not cooperating. When I see you're not cooperating with one subject, I can put it down, take another subject, we work on it. But I just find a way to ensure that I cover the topic for the week. So I was doing more or less like a weekly reading style rather than a strict timing um time schedule style. You understand? So sometimes I teach in the mornings before going to work and just drop assignments for them. When I come back from work, I mark the corrections, and then if I wasn't able to cover what I feel I should have covered in the morning, I still take them on it in the evening and then give them corrections to the um classwork that I told them to do during the day when I was not around. And sometimes we don't get to do any classes in the morning. It's in the evening when I come, we do classes. But what I just make sure is every day something must be learned. With or without writing, something must be learned daily. That is just what I focus on. So I never had any strict timing until last year. So not to give myself all the credit, in between my journey as an homeschooler, I've been opportune to employ 2 teachers. The second teacher resigned January 2023, and I just decided no, I'm not employing any teacher again. I'm not employing any teacher again. Let me just continue this assignment on my own. So that was when I now decided to create a timetable for them to use. So the timetable, I had to sit down. I went online, saw samples. The thing with research, uh, the benefits that you get from researching on things, you can't really rate it. So when you are interested in anything, the first thing to do is go online. We are blessed these days with internet, with access to information all over the world. So you can see how one mom in Britain is doing hers, how another mom in the UK is doing hers. So I saw a lot of timetables for homeschools. I saw their schedules, I saw how it was. I was like, okay. So I was able to put some ideas together and just do a schedule that, okay, from 6 in the morning till 9 in the night. So based on that schedule, they'll sleep by 9. If they're not awake by 6, I'm to wake them up. But the main academics will be in the morning before I go to work. That's between 6:30 and 8. And in the evening when I return to work, that's between 6 and 8. In between the academics is the bonding as well. Between 6:30 and 8 in the morning while I'm taking them, I'm cooking. They are not writing. They wouldn't be writing. So as I'm cooking, we could be discussing basic science or social studies, giving real life examples. They could, we could also touch a bit on maths, where I'm like, okay, give me 5 onions, or separate those onions. How many onions are in the basket? Separate it, um, divide it amongst 4 children, things like that while I am cooking. So since the time is already apportioned for me to cook, I'm also using one stone to kill two birds at the same time. So I didn't have any strict timing that okay, it's just teaching. No. Because even those evening times too, when I come from work, I would be trying to prepare food for dinner. And sometimes I might want to attend to one or two office work that I brought back home. So that's basically it with timing with me. But if you are the person that you have much more time at your hands, why not? When I employed a teacher, they had strict timing. I actually did a timetable, like from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 40 minutes for a period, and I spaced out all those subjects. Like I prepared a proper school timetable for them then. When they had that was when I employed the second teacher. But after she left in January last year, I just decided to run on rhythm rather than routine.
Hmm. Wow. You see, why this the reason why I brought you to join in on this conversation, just to show our listeners that when it comes to homeschooling, in all honesty, how you homeschool is purely dependent on you, because there's no one size fits all way of going about this. Like with regards to this issue of time management, for me, we don't have like structured time. What I do when I get the textbooks, for instance, maths, English, I look at the table of contents. I tell myself, okay, um, for the next 3 months or so, or let's say 1 year, that's one academic year. So if I'm going by the usual school calendar where an academic year begins in September and ends by August, so I plan it that way, where between September and August, this math textbook, we should have completed it. And I do that because, sometimes when you're homeschooling, in our next episode, we're going to talk about when is homeschooling not for me. If you're not going to be disciplined to be involved in the homeschooling experience, you can fall along the way, you can lag behind, because your child will be depending on your discipline to achieve what they need to achieve, just in case you decide tomorrow you want to put that child back in school. So for me, to ensure that I follow through and we're not lagging behind, I would, based on the table of content, I would apportion page by page also per day. So my aim is for us to do school every day, but not for long periods of time. But there are some days my target is 4 times a week, but the ideal for me should be every day. But even if we cannot do every day, at least 4 times a week. And we should be able to cover the whole book within that academic year. So this is what works for me. So my ability to be able to go through the table of contents and say, okay, page by page, I write the dates. I actually write the dates so that I use that to track myself and see that I'm actually keeping to what we have planned to do. Then when it comes to doing the actual work, by the time we do our maths, our English, our coloring, our drawing, maybe reading, I don't even think we spend up to 30 minutes in a day doing everything, because I try to keep the amount of work he does small and flexible. So the truth is, when it comes to transitioning in the aspects of time management, it depends on your family structure, your lifestyle, your availability, your level of discipline, yes, to be able to make it work for you. And I think my story and Opeyemi's story has showed you that there are different ways you can do it. Just do what works for you. The main thing is that you are achieving the results you have set out to achieve. Like for me, I didn't have to get tutors because I could sort of figure it out on my own. Even when I take him to the co-op, the primary reason for the co-op is not necessarily for the teaching aspect. It's just, let my kids be in an environment that I know they can interact with other kids and still learn in the process while I'm at work. So even if they don't do too much academics like they would do in regular school, when I come back home, we will now use maybe about 30 minutes to do the things we've allotted to do. So before we draw this episode to a close, Opeyemi, I just want you to speak to addressing self-doubt. There are sometimes, even when transitioning our kids from regular school to homeschooling, we as parents may doubt ourselves or our capabilities. Did you ever experience such? Let me use myself as an example. I know that there was this time where, you know, how sometimes people feel your child is out to frustrate you. When you are trying to teach your child and your child is just not cooperating, and you're even wondering, how do these teachers do this thing in the school? Because there were so many times I will scream, I will shout, I will even be tempted to beat him, I'll be frustrated, and I'll begin to question, are you sure I can do this thing? Did you ever have such experience, or maybe in a different way, but did you ever doubt your capability as a mom to actually homeschool your child when you were transitioning from regular school to homeschooling?
I wouldn't really say I doubted my capability, because I always have this idea that I'm good at teaching. And I do tell people that I can teach what I don't know, as long as I have access to the material, that I should be able to explain it. So I had that confidence before transitioning. However, I had frustrating moments. Let me put it that way. Um, the frustrating moments are when your child doesn't want to cooperate. I later discovered, I think around September, when I was okay, their former teacher came to visit me at home, and she was surprised. That particular day, I didn't take the kids in the morning before going to work. And by the time I came back, they were like, Mommy, we wrote, come and see the work we did. I didn't give them work to do. They wrote about themselves. And I looked at it. I was marking when she came. She said she wants to come and greet the boys. She now saw what I was marking. I was like, who wrote it? I said, the younger brother. He clocked 5 last year, right? And she was like, you can write this. Or am I the one that wrote it for him and told him to rewrite it? I said no. That she could see that we don't even have the whiteboard again on the wall. That I did not even remember to give them work this morning. No. And they said they've written something. She was surprised. She said the reason why she actually resigned was because she was frustrated. The fact that sometimes she comes to work and they will not cooperate. So, yes, the frustrating moments are there. Sometimes I abandon them for a whole week because I'm like, this child is not cooperating. Um, I don't have I don't have someone that I can complain to, and the person just like talk to them to change. You just need to do constant reiteration, telling the child, please, you have to cooperate, you have to do this, you have to do that. I must confess there are times that I've beaten a child, few times that I've beaten a child for not willing to cooperate. But there are also times that you are not so sure if you are meeting up, and that is where my own falling of curriculum comes in. So apart from the fact that I go and check the Lagos State scheme of work, are my children learning what they are supposed to learn? There's one other thing I did. I don't know if I told you before. I don't buy one textbook. So if I want to buy textbook for a child in primary one, let's say English language, I'll buy 2 or 3. So my children have at least 3 English textbooks, 3 math textbooks. The essence is so that they can have more practice questions, number one. And number two, the methods that are being used in those different textbooks are slightly different. Also, those textbooks focus on different areas. there are some textbooks that may focus more on comprehension, while some focus more on grammar. You understand? So the focus of the textbook, you want a child that is well rounded to some extent, even though some homeschoolers say it is better to focus on a few things than to be master of all. But at least you can have an idea of all while being strong in one or two aspects. So I can't really say self doubt in my own capability as a teacher, but
Mm.
yes, the doubt that am I sure I'm covering what I'm supposed to cover? Am I sure my child can compete with other kids, even though ideally as an homeschooler, that should not be your focus. Your focus is on your child growing and evolving daily, not on comparing your child with other children. But because of the kind of society we find ourselves, most times as parents, we fall into that trap of, is my child like all those other children of the same class that are attending school? You get? I'm sure
Mm.
you two must have been comparing with other children stylishly in your head.
My sister, it is well. In fact, as you were talking, and you said that you can teach anything as long as the resources are available. I remember times when I I go to, okay, maybe we're supposed to learn. Okay, before we even start, when I get the book, I just go through it to be sure, okay, can I teach this one? Can I teach this one? When I now see, there are some things, it now. Like if I'm teaching him maths,
Yeah,
maybe I'm teaching him multiplication now. How will I teach him this multiplication in such a way that it will be so simple and he will understand? I will now start thinking, okay, what analogy will I give? Like now, there was one recently where to do like quantitative reasoning, where they give you a number and tell you what number can make up this number. Maybe they give you 10 and ask you what number can make up 10. Different numbers can make up 10. You understand?
yeah.
Start thinking, God, how am I going to teach him this concept? What am I going to say? How will I explain? How will I begin to say, when I reach those kind of experiences, and in all honesty, I skip that page. I move to the one that I know I can do at that moment, while I keep thinking of possible ways in which I can
That
pass
you
that
can use
knowledge.
to pass that knowledge.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
I
one of the
recently,
beauties of homeschooling. No?
yeah,
That freedom to, yeah, sometimes I also do it. I skip
yes,
some topics and say I'll go back to it. For
yes,
example, when they finished textbook one for maths, I didn't teach them time. Oh. I left time and money.
mm,
Those two topics I
yes,
left them. It was later when they were treating their book too that I was now okay. I think I found a way of teaching you time and teaching you money. So I now started teaching them
right,
the time
yes.
gradually. There's
And
nothing chasing that.
also, yes, also gauging if they are at that stage where they can grasp that concept you want to teach. Because
Exactly.
sometimes I remember when I wanted to teach my son 3-letter words, the whole blending thing and all. Yes, he knew how to blend individual, like to sound individually. But when it came to the blending, it was challenging. When I gauged him and attempted, he was getting frustrated, he was confused. I just left it and gave it maybe like 1 month or so, revisited it again, tried him, and
And it's
and during that waiting period, I would expose him to audiovisual learning materials that had to do with blending. Even this thing about time. Now he knows time, like the basic ones, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
clock.
But when it comes to 5:30, 5:15, we are still on that learning process. So the beauty about this is that, like you said, you can skip, go, come back again. And for me, those are sometimes I feel like, do I have what it takes to actually teach this child? But over the period, I've learned to understand that it's just for me to give myself time, to give my child time, and try to figure it out along the way. And it also has a way of increasing the bond that you
Yes,
experience with your child,
yes.
increasing the
And
bond.
you mentioned audiovisuals now.
Mm,
I also used audiovisuals. There are some topics that when I don't know how to
mm,
explain, let
yeah,
me I can't look for a good example. Let's say maybe basic science, you want to explain what is air, the advantages of air and stuff like that, and in your
mm,
head you've forgotten how to even describe what air is. I know what air
yes,
is, but how do I just look for videos on air for babies
yes.
on YouTube. I
Mm.
download the videos I have, I've told people I'll start sending videos to them. I have about 100 videos on different aspects of learning for children.
Meanwhile, you promised to send me the link. Oh, I'm still waiting.
Sorry, don't mind me. I'm gonna send it. But these ones, I've already downloaded them in a form that you can. Okay, when we see now, when you come to Lagos, I will just help you copy on flash drive
Okay.
because they are from various sources, some of which I
Mm,
can't even remember where I
mm,
got the video from. So I
that's fine.
downloaded so many videos like that, but um in a format that you can copy and share with others. So you mentioned audiovisuals. Yes, audiovisuals work a lot. I use it not just for topics that are difficult, but sometimes when I see that okay, I'm too busy, we can't, like I said, it is a reading kind of thing. There are some
Yeah,
weeks that you'll be so busy you can't meet up with teaching them in the morning before going to work. You
yeah,
just okay, these audiovisuals that I already have, just go through them, listen to it, and what have you. There are some topics like transportation that what I did was let them watch the video first. Then later I asked them, what did you learn? They
yeah,
explained to me, and if I feel they didn't capture everything, I had my own one or two bits to it.
yeah. Wow, Opeyemi, thanks so much for joining this conversation. In fact, I didn't expect us to have this lengthy conversation, but it just shows a lot of things that as mothers, we need to consider when transitioning our kids from traditional schooling to homeschooling. So I hope you've learned a whole lot using our experiences. And trust me, if we can do it, you can do it. So just look out for the
Definitely.
things we've highlighted that you should be able to look out for, and prepare your mind, prepare yourself, be patient with your kids. So you could also catch up on our other episodes within the series to learn a whole lot more on our homeschooling journey. Thank you for listening in to today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. And Opeyemi, thank you for joining me once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. We really hope today's episode has given you some great tools, resources, and a boost of confidence to take charge of your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. You can also follow us on our social media handle for even more tips and a wonderful community that's all about supporting your growth. Join us next time for more uplifting stories and encouraging insights. Until we meet again, keep shining bright, stay inspired, and embrace your unique path to a better tomorrow.